Maybe your husband moved into the guest room. Maybe your wife will no longer share a bed with you. And maybe everyone in the house has quietly decided that this is simply how you sleep now. A little wild, a little loud, nothing to worry about. But what if I told you that the thing your family is laughing about at breakfast, or arguing about at night, is actually one of the earliest and most reliable warning signals the human brain can send? A signal that can appear 10, even 15 years before a single problem with memory or movement ever begins. I am Dr. Hiroshi Nakamura. For more than 30 years, I have practiced internal medicine and geriatric health, and I have sat with thousands of older patients and their families. I have watched the slow beginnings of conditions that most people believe arrive suddenly, out of nowhere. They rarely do. The body almost always speaks first, quietly, years in advance. And in all that time, one of the most overlooked signals I have ever encountered is the one I want to talk to you about today. It hides in plain sight. It happens while you sleep, when you cannot see it, and often cannot remember it. And most people who have it never mention it to a doctor, because they do not believe it means anything at all. They believe it is just the way they dream. Here is what most people do not realize. When you dream, your body is supposed to be completely still, not because you are relaxed, because your brain is actively holding you down. During the deepest dreaming stage of sleep, the stage we call rapid eye movement sleep, a small region deep in your brainstem sends out a signal that temporarily paralyzes almost every muscle in your body. Your arms, your legs, your voice, all of it goes silent on purpose. This is not a flaw. It is one of the most elegant forms of protection your body has. It is the reason you can dream of running without leaving your bed. It is the reason you can dream of fighting without ever throwing a punch. Every night, without your knowledge, your brain builds a wall between the world of the dream and the movement of the body. You have crossed that wall thousands of times and never once noticed it was there. Let me help you feel just how important this wall is. Think of your dreaming brain as a theater where a play is being performed. In the dream, you run, you argue, you defend yourself, you fall, you fly. The actors are fully alive, but the stage has a curtain, a heavy curtain that keeps the performance sealed inside the theater. The audience, which is the rest of your body, sits perfectly still. The play unfolds in full, and yet not a single movement escapes into the room. That curtain is the paralysis of dreaming sleep. It falls every night, and it rises every morning, and you are never aware of either. But in some people, that curtain begins to tear, and when it does, the performance no longer stays on the stage. The body begins to act out the dream. This is the part that rarely gets explained, so stay with me for a moment, because understanding this changes everything about how you will see your own nights, or the nights of someone you love. The condition has a name. It is called rapid eye movement sleep behavior disorder. In simple terms, the paralysis that is supposed to protect you fails, and whatever you are dreaming, your body performs. If you dream you are being chased, you may kick. If you dream someone is attacking you, you may punch, or shout, or leap out of bed. People have bruised themselves against the headboard. People have injured the person sleeping beside them without ever waking. People have fallen and struck the nightstand or the floor, and in the morning they remember only a vivid dream, if they remember anything at all, with no idea that their body carried it out in the dark. Now, why does this matter so much? Because of where it comes from. That small region deep in the brainstem that controls dream paralysis sits in almost the exact same place where two serious conditions quietly begin. One is Parkinson's disease, which most people know as a disorder of movement, of tremor and stiffness, and a slowing of the body. The other is a form of dementia called Lewy body dementia, which affects memory, thinking, and perception. And this is the detail I need you to hear clearly, so I am going to say it slowly. This sleep problem does not appear at the same time as those diseases. It appears years before them, sometimes a decade, sometimes 15 years. The damage begins in the part of the brain that guards your sleep, and only much later, sometimes far later, does it spread to the parts that control movement and memory. Let me give you a way to picture this that I often use with my own patients. Imagine a house where a fire begins in the basement, in a room no one ever visits. For years, That fire smolders quietly in the foundation. Upstairs, life continues completely as normal. No smoke in the kitchen, no alarm ringing, nothing that anyone in the family would ever notice. The acting out of dreams is the first faint smell of smoke coming up through the floorboards. It is not the fire in the living room. It is the warning that arrives long before the fire ever reaches the rooms where you live. And that early warning, as frightening as it may sound, is actually one of the most valuable things your body can ever give you. I will explain exactly why in a few moments, because the reason is where the hope in all of this lives. Let me walk you through what this actually looks like, because many people have it and do not recognize it in themselves. I want to describe the signs one at a time, calmly, so that you can compare them honestly to your own nights. The first sign is movement during sleep that matches a dream. Not gentle turning, not the ordinary shifting of a restless night, where a person settles from one side to the other. I mean sudden, purposeful movement, kicking, punching the air, sitting up abruptly, thrashing as if wrestling with something. Very often the person is dreaming of defending themselves, escaping from an intruder, or being chased. And here is what makes it so easy to dismiss. During the day, that very same person may be the calmest, gentlest soul you know. A quiet grandmother, a soft-spoken husband. The behavior only appears in sleep, when the guarding wall has come down and the daytime self is nowhere to be found. Families often say, "That is not who he is, that is not who she is," and they are right. It is not a change in character. It is a change in the brain's ability to keep the dream contained. The second sign is talking, shouting, or crying out during the night. Not the soft, harmless mumbling that many people do. I mean loud, emotional, sometimes frightening speech, yelling, arguing with someone who is not there, calling out in fear. A spouse will often tell me that the voice does not even sound like their partner, that it comes from somewhere deeper and more urgent. This is the dream escaping through the voice, because the paralysis that normally silences the vocal cords has failed along with the rest. The third sign is the one that brings families to my office more than any other: injury, either to the person themselves or to the one sleeping beside them. I want you to pay attention here, because this is the point where quiet observation must become action. A bruise on the hand that has no explanation. A cut on the forehead. A partner who has been struck by an arm in the middle of the night. A fall from the bed onto a hard floor. When there is a real risk of harm during the night, this is no longer something to simply watch and wonder about. It is something that deserves proper medical evaluation. Not panic, evaluation. The fourth sign is the one hidden inside so many marriages, and it is the separate bedroom. So many couples reach a point where one of them can no longer sleep safely beside the other. They rarely say it to a doctor. They treat it as a private inconvenience, almost an embarrassment, something you do not discuss at a medical appointment. But when I hear that a husband and wife have been sleeping apart for years because of thrashing or shouting in the night, I listen very carefully, because that quiet arrangement in the home may be telling me something that no blood test has yet found. The guest room in these cases is not just a bed. It is a piece of the medical history. Now, before I go further, I want to be careful and fair, because I never want to frighten you into seeing danger where there is none. There are other, simpler reasons a person may move or speak in their sleep. Ordinary restless legs. A dream that startles you awake once in a great while. The muttering that many people do harmlessly for their whole lives. Even certain medications and heavy alcohol in the evening can loosen the body during sleep in ways that mimic this. That is one of the reasons a proper evaluation matters so much. A specialist can tell the difference between a harmless quirk and the specific pattern I am describing. What sets this condition apart is its consistency, its violence, and the way the movements so clearly match a dream of action. It is not once a year. It is a pattern that a partner comes to know well and often to fear. Let me tell you about a patient, because a real story will make this clearer than any explanation. I will call him Walter. He was 71 years old, a retired engineer, precise, thoughtful, the kind of man who measured his words carefully and rarely made a fuss about anything in his life. He did not come to me about his sleep at all. He came for a routine check of his blood pressure and to renew a prescription. It was his wife, whom I will call Margaret, who mentioned the real matter, almost as an afterthought, as she was gathering her coat to leave the room. She told me she had been sleeping in the guest room for nearly 4 years. At first she said it lightly, as if it were simply a matter of his snoring. But when I asked her, gently, to describe what those nights had actually been like, the true picture came out slowly. Walter would shout in the middle of the night, full sentences sometimes, angry and afraid. He would swing his arms as if fighting. Once he had struck the headboard so hard that he bruised the back of his hand, and he woke with no memory of it at all, only the ache and a vague, fading sense that he had been running from someone in a dark place. Another night he had fallen out of the bed entirely and landed hard on the floor. Margaret had not moved to the guest room out of anger, and not out of coldness. She had moved out of fear. Fear for herself, yes, but even more, fear for him. Walter himself brushed the whole thing off in front of me. "Just bad dreams," he said, with a small wave of his hand. "Everyone has strange nights at my age." But I did not treat it as nothing, and I want to tell you why. In 30 years, I have learned that the things patients wave away at the door are very often the things that matter most. So I explained to both of them, gently and without alarm, what the acting out of dreams can sometimes mean. And I referred Walter to a neurologist and to a sleep specialist for a proper overnight sleep study, where the brain and body are carefully monitored through the night. That study is the only way this is truly confirmed, and in Walter's case, it was confirmed. The protective paralysis of his dreaming sleep was indeed failing. Now, I want to be honest with you, because honesty is the only thing of real value I can offer in a conversation like this. That finding was serious. I will not pretend otherwise. But it was also, in a strange and important way, a gift. Because Walter learned this at 71, while his memory was still sharp, and his walk was still steady, and his hands were still calm during the day, he and his neurologist had years ahead of them, not weeks. Years to watch carefully, years to protect his brain with everything modern medicine and good living could offer. Years to plan, to prepare, and to make thoughtful decisions instead of panicked ones. His bedroom was made safe. His overall health, his blood pressure, his sleep, his medications, all of it was reviewed and improved. And Walter told me something at a later visit that I have never forgotten. He said, "Doctor, for the first time, the thing that frightened us in the dark finally has a name, and a name we can face together is far better than a fear we cannot even speak aloud. This is what I most want you to understand, and I want to say it as plainly as I can. If you recognize yourself, or someone you love, in what I have described tonight, the correct response is not panic, it is action. Calm, early, deliberate action. And here is the reassurance you truly deserve to hear clearly, because it is real and it is important. Not everyone with this sleep pattern goes on to develop Parkinson's disease or dementia. Let me say that again slowly, because I do not want you to miss it. Not everyone. This is a warning sign, not a verdict. It is not a sentence that has already been passed. What it gives you, more than anything, is time. And time, in every matter concerning the brain, is the single most precious thing there is. To notice this early is to be handed a long runway, a runway that most people who develop these conditions never get, to protect the very brain that is trying so hard to warn you. If this sounds familiar to you, or if someone in your home has been quietly sleeping in another room because of nights like these, write the word yes in the comments below. You may be genuinely surprised how many others are living with the very same thing in silence, believing they are the only ones. You are not alone in this, and your comment may give courage to someone who has been too embarrassed to speak. So what should you actually do? Let me keep this simple and clear, because simple guidance is the kind that people actually follow. First, and most important, if you or your partner act out dreams in a way that risks injury, arrange to see a neurologist, and if at all possible, a sleep specialist as well. A proper overnight sleep study is how this is truly confirmed, and it is a calm, painless process. Please do not try to diagnose this from a video, including this one. What I am giving you tonight is not a diagnosis. It is a reason to ask the right question of the right doctor, and to ask it soon rather than someday. Second, make the bedroom safe tonight. This is sensible, not alarming, and it costs almost nothing. Move sharp furniture and hard objects away from both sides of the bed. Take a table lamp with a heavy base and set it somewhere it cannot be reached by a swinging arm. Consider lowering the mattress closer to the floor or placing a soft cushion or folded blanket beside the bed so that a fall does not become a serious injury. Draw the curtains and remove anything near the bed that could cut or bruise. If there is any real risk to the person sleeping beside you, it is reasonable and wise for that person to sleep separately for now, until you have proper guidance from a specialist. Hear me clearly on this. That is not a failure of your marriage. That is love taking a practical form. Protecting each other in the night is one of the quietest kinds of devotion there is. Third, mention it to your doctor even if it feels small or embarrassing. So many people never say a single word about their sleep because they assume it does not matter, or because they feel foolish describing a dream. It matters. Bring it up in the same steady way you would bring up chest pain, or dizziness, or a new pain in your side. Your nights are part of your health, every bit as much as your days. And fourth, take care of the general health of your brain in the meantime, not as a cure, but as sensible support alongside whatever your specialist advises. Keep your blood pressure controlled. Stay physically active in whatever way your body allows. Keep your mind engaged and your social life alive. Sleep in a cool, dark, calm room. These things do not replace medical care, and I would never tell you that they do. But they are the good soil in which a brain has its best chance, and there is no age at which they stop mattering. The body has a remarkable way of speaking to us, even later in life, if only we are willing to listen and brave enough to hear. This sign is not a curse laid upon you. It is your own brain, reaching out years in advance, asking you to pay attention while there is still ample time to act with wisdom instead of fear. Very few conditions in all of medicine offer that kind of warning so far ahead. To receive it and to understand what it means is not a misfortune. It is a genuine advantage, and I want you to hold it as one. If this was helpful to you, please subscribe to this channel and give this video a like so that others who need to hear this can find it too. Many people are suffering these nights in silence, and your small action helps me reach them. I have made other videos on the earliest signs of dementia, long before memory loss begins, and on the quiet warning of a mini-stroke that so many people ignore, and I would gently encourage you to watch those next. They belong together with what we have discussed today. I will keep sharing what I have seen in my patients, calmly and honestly, so that you can make better decisions earlier, while those decisions still carry the most weight. Take care of yourself, and take care of the one who sleeps beside you. I will see you in the next one.